1903, Land Bridge Development LLC is requesting a variance to the land use resolution, Article 3, section number 306F.7, maximum units per building. No more than 12 units shall be permitted to form any one single building. James.
Mr. Chairman, I think you said it very well. This variance did go before the Planning Commission in conjunction with the rezoning process for the rezone to residential multifamily, in which it was denied at the both the variance was recommended for denial as well as both the zoning was recommended for denial as well as the variance was denied at the Planning Commission. Land Bridge and Mr. Hammond, who is still here tonight, they are looking to appeal the variance decision by the planning board. Obviously, it's to me to add 16 units to each one of their buildings instead of 12.
Not add 16 units.
Not add 16 units.
Right.
16 units total to each building instead of 12. And you all saw the site plan that had that. If they aren't granted this variance, they're going to actually have to add another building, which will cut into their open space. I do want to say that their open space would still meet the minimum requirement of open space of 25% for the residential multifamily, even with the additional building. But obviously, we don't want to cut into open space if we don't have to. I did speak to the fire marshal on this issue, and his concern not necessarily because we can't go, they're not allowed to go over 35 feet height, but his concern was as the length of the building, just having the right tools to go all the way around the building in case of fire protection. And he said that wouldn't be a problem on the approval end through planning. So I'll answer any questions.
That would or would not be a
It
problem.
would not be a problem.
No.
Questions for James?
Is this essentially just adding one unit on each side of or four units, two on each side of the building? Is that architecturally what we're looking at? That might be an applicant question. We can wait till we get to that. So.
Any other questions for James? Thanks, sir. We may have some in a minute. Is the applicant present? Come on up. Tell us what you'd like to do.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Gary Hammond, 7000 Peachtree Dunwoody Road in Sandy Springs. I prepared a PowerPoint presentation. I'll do my best to get through the technology side of that. This is the site plan, basically that I presented to you at the April 18th meeting. I would like to also point out that the site plan has incorporated now all of the zoning conditions that were placed on there as well, including the interconnectivity road. So now you see a road come behind the CDS and Crystal and connect with the 400 North Center Lane. The next exhibit is the 7 building plan. So to get the same 80 units and no more than 12 units of building, we end up having to add 2 additional buildings. And obviously that is some space that is going to have impervious area, rooftops, slabs, etc. The next plan, which is difficult to see, is an overlay of the 2 different on top of each other. The blue is the 7 building plan, and the red is the original 5 building plan. And to answer the question about the style of building, when I first spoke to that, I envisioned something like Farmington, because that is a 12-unit building, and they actually have a walkout terrace level. So there's 8 units on one floor that are at grade, and then there's 4 units below that. But that style consumes a lot of concrete because you truly have a basement unit, which we like to call terrace units. In this plan, in talking to my general contractor and architect, the lesser expensive plan was to do what we call 1- and 2-story pop-up buildings. So we would have 8 units on the first floor, and the center would be 4 units to get to the 12. And then we would have an odd number, so we'd have one building that had only 8 units in it. But the difference between the 12 and the 16 is putting 2 units on each end of the building, so that it's uniformly 8 units a floor versus having these pop-up sections. This is a photo of a 16-unit building that I built in Cornelia with 8 units per floor. And you obviously see that the 2-story mass, the building would be very similar to that, subject to zoning conditions. This is the typical building at the crossings. That's a 28-unit building. It has a terrace level on one side, so there's 4 units that walk out, or 4 basement units, and on the other side is 3 stories, and that's how you get to 28 units. And then this is the Falls of Forsyth. Obviously, in Forsyth County, there's 57 units in that building. You know, obviously, one of the points that I made was cost and green space. The 5 buildings, 16 units each, have 10.26 acres of green space, or 71% green space. And the 7 buildings have 9.61 acres of green space, so it drops to 67% green space. It's a difference of about 0.65 acre that get consumed in the additional 2 buildings. And then from a cost standpoint, I would prefer to spend the money on amenities and landscaping, et cetera. My architect and general contractor estimated that it would cost about another 2.7% in foundation, additional foundation area, roof area, circulation space, and siding and brick for those types of buildings. So, in my opinion, we're not adding any additional volume. We're not going up beyond the 2 stories, and I would respectfully ask if you permit us to do a 16-unit building. Thank you.
Questions of the applicant?
You talked about adding another building, you'd be losing green space, creating more asphalt area, concrete area, runoff. I mean,
That's exactly right. 0.65 acre of additional impervious area.
impervious, okay,
Yes, sir.
which creates more runoff.
Yes, sir.
And you obviously would have to maintain the number of parking places. I mean, what you've shown us is included in the additional parking places I guess it's irregardless whether you have them in 1 building or 2 buildings, you still got the same number of parking places
Yeah,
per.
Yes, and it's the same exact number of parking spaces. We do have to move around the drives and stretch them, so the access roads get a little bit longer because we're stretching it out to get 2 buildings in a section. But for the most part, it's related to rooftops and slabs is the impact.
One more thing. Would that add, I know you said you built so many handicap units, would that add another handicap unit to one of those buildings, or?
We would have 40 regardless, I believe. I have to run through the math in my head, but we have 11 units
That are handicap
that are
accessible?
handicapped, that are fully accessible with a no-step entry walking path into the units.
Other questions of the applicant?
And I guess to clarify, with fire marshal, Jeff, can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
Hose lay, I mean, how long is the building? How long will the building be?
Probably about 200 feet.
So just adding, I mean, y'all can make it with hose lay, you're laying pan lines.
It's supposed to be 150 feet to the most north point of the building from the apparatus access road. Not really concerned. just
So if
the
you
general-
pull in the middle, you can reach it either end. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Other questions of the applicant?
Now, tell me again what the outside of these buildings are gonna have on them.
With the addition will be,
To what?
it'll be very similar to the picture that I just put up
Oh,
on,
very similar to
with the
that.
exception of the shutters, because the shutters were added. But I would expect it to look very similar.
Is there going to be a mixture of brick, stone and brick?
We would prefer to just use brick, but we change up the color often, and we change up the siding color. so buildings don't all look the same. And it's a cementitious, like hardy plank siding, we don't use any vinyl.
It does have to meet the 400 overlay guideline regardless. No pastel colors.
No pink, no blue.
Other questions of the app?
And why did you ask for this, when you asked for the rezoning?
I did through planning commission, and.
I just want him to explain.
And when we got to the Board of Commissioners, we tried to take it up, and I think we felt like there was either not public notice or it wasn't proper for us to take it up the same night that you voted on the zoning, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Because you did talk about it for a while.
That's correct. Other questions? Thanks, sir. We may have some more in a few minutes.
Thank you.
I'll open up this hearing. Anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Anyone here speak in favor of the application? Seeing none, anyone here to speak in opposition to the application? Anyone here to speak in opposition to the variance application? Seeing none, I'll close that hearing. Pleasure of the board.
Make a motion to approve the variance. That
Motion.
add the 4 units to the building.
Okay, so each building would have 16 units. Okay, motion by Commissioner Satterfield to approve the variance. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Gaines. Discussion.
Chairman, I'd like to bring out a point for the board to consider. Back in the original approval of the zoning change, there was a stipulation, I believe, that was discussed, and Commissioner Gaines had brought up regarding a traffic signal to be put at the intersection there with the Ingle parking lot and Crystal. Myself and David McKee had met with GDOT regarding that. With the design of the continuous flow intersection, the turn lanes, if you're headed eastbound towards 400, the left turn lane would interfere possibly with a left turn coming westbound and turning left into the Ingalls Shopping Center or to the right where Crystal's and all. GDOT was going to look at that, and Mr. McKee might be able to talk more if that has been done yet, but I just want to bring to the board's attention that may not be a feasible stipulation for the applicant, in that there may be some design or situations in there which GDOT would control outside of the applicant's ability to perform on. I just wanted to bring that to the board's attention, so if there needs to be further discussion on that. It would also require a signal warrant study to be done, whether or not that would take place. So I did want to bring that to the board's
And
attention.
I think the board was knowledgeable of the fact that GDOT would have the final say on that.
Yeah.
Correct.
When that stipulation was put
Prefaced
into
on
place.
GDOT.
Prefaced on them, so I think they were aware of that fact.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve VR 1903. Any further discussion? Hearing none, please vote. And that's approved 4-0.
Thank you.
Next, we'll get into the public hearing. This is land use resolution update. This is second of 2 hearings. First hearing was held on May 2nd, 2019. There were some questions in reference to portions of that, and Ms. Davis, I will defer to you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Before you tonight is an ordinance that would be an amendment to the existing land use resolution. There are 3 components to this amendment that you have before you. I'll just briefly brief what those are, and then also offer if Jamison has any comments he would like to make. The first amendment is to Article 3, Section 309, related to RA residential agricultural residential suburban section, and it proposes to delete subsection 309B1 and replace it with the following. residential subdivisions where lots are less than 5 acres in size. Notwithstanding the foregoing, this prohibition shall not prevent a subdivision resulting in the creation of exactly 2 lots from the original lot that is subdivided. The next amendment is to Article 3, Section 309, proposing to delete subsection 209C1 in its entirety and replacing it with the following. Minimum lot size, 1.5 acres or such size as determined to be necessary for the protection of public health, safety, and welfare by the Dawson County Health Department, whichever is greater. Notwithstanding the foregoing, the minimum lot size for residential subdivisions shall be 5 acres unless the subdivision constitutes the subdivision of a single parcel into exactly 2 parcels. Minimum lot width at building line 175 feet, minimum depth 200 feet. And then the final amendment is to Article 6, Section 606, as to non-conforming uses. That proposes the following deletion of 606F in its entirety and replacing it with the following. For commercial and business purposes, a legal non-conforming status is proven by possession of a valid, legally obtained Dawson County business license within the past 12 months. Notwithstanding the foregoing sentence, such legal non-conforming status, solely based on the possession of a business license, shall no longer be recognized for any business license issued or renewed after the date of this enactment on May 16, 2019. Those are the 3 amendments that are before you in the single resolution for your consideration and for public hearing tonight.
Thank you. Any questions of council?
Yeah, why did this come up in the first place?
Well, I would defer to Jameson on the first 2 about, I think, lot splits or what really brought that to light, but I would ask Jameson to address that.
Absolutely. So in regarding to splitting up residential agricultural lots, as it states right now, if you're trying to break off 1 to 2 acres for your child or a relative of some sort, it has to be a requirement of 5 acres. As stated currently, this would allow someone to break off 1.5 acres to 2 acres and still leave the rest of it in a conservation use and still let their child or you know, whatever else develop on that property. Or for any other use. I
So
guess.
instead of 5 acres, could you give them, you're saying give them an acre?
I believe it's an acre and a half.
Acre and a half, yeah.
It's the
Yeah,
minimum
because that's,
lot size.
yeah, your septic tank, okay.
And I think we've also,
Sounds like higher
just to add on to what
density.
you said, I think we've had several of these occasions come before this board where, just like the other night, I think we had one where a lady had 3 plus acres or whatever it was, her family had 3 and something acres. She wanted to live beside her family, and so you know, we broke off that acre and a half so that she could live beside her family. This is an opportunity for planning to go ahead and grant all that without it having to come before the commission, I believe, the way that would work. And because it's something other that historically we have granted. As you look back through time when it's family members especially looking, and the fact that you know, it can't be split more than once, means it's obviously not going to turn into a subdivision. So,
Well, they use the word subdivision,
yeah,
that's what it
subdivide
says.
property, yeah, subdivide would be a better word probably.
Yeah, and that's their subdivision, I don't know.
Yeah, would be a better word, but it would meet a need that this board has seen on numerous occasions.
But why can't we still see it?
Good.
I mean, what's wrong with us seeing that? Seeing, I mean, to me, this just translates into density. And maybe I'm reading this wrong.
And I understand that. What we're trying to do is we're trying to allow, if you subdivide more than 5 times in a 10-year period, you're gonna trip subdivision regulations. And then what the subdivision regulations are gonna do is require you to do a whole lot of upgrades, infrastructure, and all. What we're trying to do here is try to allow people to cut off an acre of the property for multiple purposes, but without tripping those subdivision regulations. And a lot of it's intended, a lot of it, where we run into it is really family members, is where they're like, okay, we have 8 acres and we wanna live on the same property as mom and dad or grandma and grandpa. And if you come to our planning department, we say, well, you can't do that because you don't have, it has to be at least 5 acres that you're breaking off, 2 5-acre pieces in residential agriculture. And what we're not trying to do is what we're not trying to do is in around that and say that RA is an acre and a half, that you can. We're just trying to say that there are certain situations in which we should allow that without tripping and that's why it specifically says into exactly 2 parcels, so we're not tripping subdivision regulations.
I'm sorry, I'm just thinking, it seemed like all this is creeping up our way. And you're, just making things just dense and, I don't know, it drives me crazy. When I hear residential agriculture, I think about, and I know it's not all us up in the western end, but I don't know, just forgive me.
How many times could they, like if they had 8 acres, how many times could they take off? Acre and a half.
It's essentially the way, I mean, they can only do it one at a time, obviously, according to
And then in
this.
5 years, do another 1.5, say if they had 3 kids?
Yes, ma'am.
And then in another 5 years, do another 1.5 if the third child just.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to-
that's what I see happening in the place up there where I live. And to me, they're just playing the system, and I know they can, but what it winds up to be is a subdivision. And a lot of times, it doesn't translate to their family. They all of a sudden decide they're gonna sell it to somebody else, and then you've got a subdivision. I can show you one right now, and that's my skepticism about it, so. I just didn't know how this, I just didn't understand how it came about. But I do now.
I can speak to the last one if you'd like. I'm not as familiar with the first 2.
Yeah.
But as to the last one, I understand that, from my perspective, the provision that it provided, that a non-conforming status could be proven was the word by simply the existence of a business license. That was very unusual in my experience to see that, because typically a non-conforming use or a grandfathered use is something that someone enjoys and remains entitled to because they've been doing this use, and then the county changes a rule, but we're not gonna harm them and require them to shut down their use as long as they continue it. So it's very unusual to see something like this that would provide for nothing but a business license and not actual doing the use or doing the business to constitute a protection of that non-conforming illegal status. And so the revision is proposed to eliminate that from our grandfathering provisions, so that now truly we're treating properties grandfathered and protecting those vested rights if they're actually continuing the use. But if they're not, and if they're, as you suggested, Commissioner Fawcett, maybe playing the system somehow by just going in once a year and signing up a business license to maintain that illegal non-conforming status, that won't be allowed any longer. So that's the purpose of that provision 606. Now, what we did make sure to clearly provide for is that if someone currently has a business license, that can't just poof go away. They're going to be entitled to continuing that non-conforming status until the expiration of that business license, which I've learned is a rolling period. So it's not a January 1 type expiration, but it will roll based upon whatever time that they may have been issued. So, and in the document that you have, I think in your agenda materials, that provision is slightly different. I emailed you a revised version today, and I'll make sure Kristen gets that if you decide to approve it. But it would provide that any business license issued or renewed after today would no longer be proof of a non-conforming use.
Other information needed before we open the hearing? Okay, this time I will open up public hearing for the land use resolution update. Anyone here to speak on the land use resolution update? Anyone? Anyone here? Come on up. Give us your name and address, please.
I'm Jane Rose, Park Cove Road 224. I just want to thank you for looking at this change in the business license ordinance, because it does cause problems in certain residential areas where people have kept a business license but have not continued their non-conforming use, and have tried to potentially sell properties based on having this so-called ability to have a commercial entity there. And I think it is a bit of a play of the system, and I would appreciate you approving that particular change in the land use resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak to the land use resolution update? Anyone? Seeing none, I'll close that hearing. What's the pleasure of the board?
And Mr. Chairman, if I could just note, if there is a concern as to portions of the resolution, we could certainly, you could tell us what you wish to adopt, and we can do that. There's 3 separate amendments, they are in one resolution, but we could indeed, take 1, 2, or 3, or none of them as well. But
You want to take them one at a time? What do y'all want to do? Huh? One at a time?
I think that'd be better.
Okay, so what's the first one?
Okay, so the first one, well, I'm sorry, had my thing in front of me. I get excited to read it to you, I'm so sorry. Jameson, can you, how did I lose it in my papers? This is the insanity that's
Go ahead.
setting in.
I would actually recommend taking one, A and B at the same time, because they
Those
both
go
are,
together, that's
because they
exactly
do go together. But
Okay.
A is in Article 3, Section 309, RA, residential agriculture. By deleting subsection 309B1 in its entirety and replacing it with the following. 1. Residential subdivisions where lots are less than 5 acres in size, notwithstanding the foregoing, this prohibition shall prevent a subdivision resulting in the creation of exactly 2 lots from the original lot that is subdivided. And B, in Article 3, Section 309 RA, residential agricultural, residential exurban, by deleting subsection 209C1 in its entirety and replacing it with the following. 1. Minimum lot size 1.5 acres or such as determined to be necessary for the protection of public health, safety, and welfare of Dawson County Health Department, whichever is greater. Notwithstanding the foregoing, the minimum lot size for residential subdivisions shall be 5 acres unless the subdivision constitutes the subdivision of a single parcel into exactly 2 parcels. Minimum lot width at the building line 175 feet and minimum depth 200 feet.
Thank you, Jameson.
Thank you for saving me.
Motion.
I'd like to make a motion to table this piece in order for us to do some more due diligence on some of the valid points I think
I
that
just
Sharon
can't
brought up.
go with it.
A and B.
But,
Yeah, just-
yes,
Yeah, I think they go
but
hand
this
in hand,
subdivision
so
thing just worries me to death.
I'm still trying to understand the reasons for doing it, if it's
Me
very
too.
sporadic, and I think Commissioner Fawcett brought it up, if we only see it every once in a while, and it is for family members, that, I'd just like to do some more homework on that particular piece. I'd make a
And I
recommendation.
want to know when it's happening, because people are gonna ask me, about this 5 acre thing, and I said, ooh, I had to give my kids 5 acres, so now look what's happening. So, I'd like, I need more time to digest this too.
Okay,
So
we
I
have a
second it.
motion to table 1A and 1B
Second.
by Commissioner Gaines, seconded by Commissioner Satterfield. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. How long do you want to table it for? I guess we probably should put in there.
Yeah, that's why we're gonna do that, so. Do we need to amend
Well, I
that?
think someone said indefinitely, I
If it's
thought I
open-ended,
heard, and I
yeah.
think that's fine.
I
It
don't
can be
think I
brought back.
have to put a date on it, as long as we get comfortable with it.
Exactly.
All right? The rest of that. Lights go off automatically. Yeah.
Oh, I'm scared.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here, folks.
No, you're,
Oh, you're fine, you can
you're
stay.
fine. But, all right, read the other one.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I can read the next one. The next one is the related to grandfathering provision, and it would provide, for deletion of section 606F, which would now state in its amended form, for commercial and business purposes, a legal non-conforming status is proven by possession of a valid, legally obtained Dawson County business license within the past 12 months. Notwithstanding the foregoing sentence, such legal non-conforming status solely based on the possession of a business license shall no longer be recognized for any business license issued or renewed after the date of this enactment on May 16, 2019.
So just because they've got a business license doesn't make this valid. You know,
Right.
it's a non-conforming, okay.
They would have to have an additional indicia of use, actually doing the business as opposed to like a placeholder of keeping the business license. Because otherwise, under the ordinance for grandfathered non-conforming uses, it would provide that if you discontinue the use for a year, you lose it. Because again, the whole idea is we're trying not to harm someone who's actively pursuing a business interest, but once they stop, and they stop for a year, then they lose it anyhow. So the business license piece of it, in the way it's been used by some, is they're solely relying on that, they're not using the property for the non-conforming use at all. So that would mean they just can't rely on that anymore, and they would be cut off.
Motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Nick,
Second.
second by Commissioner Fawcett. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that's approved. 4-0. Next, we move on to unfinished business. Consideration of RFP 333-19, design build services for fire services station number 9, tabled from the May 2nd, 2019 voting session.
Give Davis a minute to get his bag set. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you for allowing us to table this the past meeting and bring it back before you tonight. On the 2nd of May, I'm having difficulty here. On the 2nd of May, we met with myself and our review team, met with CT Darnell Construction. We had about a 3-hour meeting discussing the scope and discussing what we could do to bring this project within budget, all while getting what we told the board all along in the public what we needed was a fire station that would house the apparatus and house the staff needed for a 15 to 20 year period, as well as a community building as required in our SPOS resolution. I'm pleased to present the board that CT Darnell has come back with their best final offer of $1,562,405. And my recommendation, or staff's recommendation, is that we enter into a contract with CT Darnell Construction and begin the design process as soon as we get the contract signed. We'll also note for the board's edification that the budget for this was 1.6 is what we have, just over $1.6 million is what's left to build this. What we did take out and that county staff will be doing is the paving and the sub-base, the GAB and paving. We also pulled out of that contract the appliances and the lockers. The simple fact there is we can get them cheaper on state contract and tax exempt than the contractor can get them even at their contracted prices. We've done a good bit of homework since our meeting on the 2nd, and we feel confident that with the stated budget, we can do just what we said. We can have a turnkey building prepared when the board sees fit to staff it, and the chief has the staffing and provide this fire station.
Let's go back, we talked about originally that being a maximum price. In other words, could it still come in under that? Is it still classified as the maximum price, or is this a definite?
This is a, no, this is not a definite price, no. That site, the site construction that there still has quite a few unknowns. Even after going out there, I personally ran a skid steer for a couple hours with a brush cutter trying to get a better idea of what's going on. The site still poses some construction. They've estimated $295,000 in site work. Sounds like a lot. That may not be enough. So the next step of this is go through the design stage. They'll present back to me a guaranteed maximum price. If it is 1 penny over this price right here, we will come back before the Board of Commissioners. And then they'll give me that guaranteed maximum price. When that's done, then yes, we have a guaranteed maximum. It could come in under that. For example, the Public Works Complex now, when we're receiving pay apps for that, when I get a pay app, they send me invoices from their subcontractors that equal exactly what that is. We know exactly what we're going to pay the contractor. The contractor's fee in this particular case is $46,000. That doesn't change. So yes, it's quite possible it could be below that.
You said 1.5, I'm looking at 1.736271. What's
The
Took out.
what you have in your packet was the original submittal that
Okay.
CT Darnell has done, originally submitted.
And so we're,
We met with them on the 2nd, and the new amount is $1,562,405.
and that's with us doing some of that work too. I mean, that's
Yeah.
a big count, not
There's
big count.
there's also a mobile home on the property. We're gonna demo that. I've secured some demolition permits. We've got the power cut, and we're gonna go ahead and demo that in-house and get it removed. Commissioner Nix also asked where the company was. They are licensed for Forsyth County business, is where they're licensed.
Questions for David? Thank you, David. Motions?
Make a motion to approve the amended proposal as presented.
Motion by Commissioner Gaines, seconded by Commissioner Nix. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that's approved 4-0. Next, we'll move on to new business. Consideration of IFB number 340-19, on-call full depth reclamation services. David presented that to us a couple of weeks ago. Any other information needed? Motions.
Motion approved.
Motion by Commissioner Satterfield,
Second.
second by Commissioner Nix. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that's approved. 4-0. Next up, we have consideration of proposed agreement with Rotary Club for outdoor project at Rock Creek Park. And remember, Matt presented that. It was a redo of the tennis courts in the back. Basketball courts in the back. And that would be about a $50-something thousand project that the Rotary Club would fund. And it would enhance that area. Any other information needed? Hearing none, please vote. Motion. Commissioner Gaines, seconded by Commissioner Costa. Discussion.
Thank you, brother.
Thank y'all. Hearing none, please vote. And that's approved. Tell the Rotary Club we do appreciate their willingness to work with the county and provide quality.
Another project.
Yes. Next up, we have consideration of request to transfer facility responsibility of Station 2 community room. Now, we did have a request for more information from the library, and I think, Matt, you have not been able to get that information as of now.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman, yes.
And you have reached out to them, so what does the board want to do?
With the motion, we table the decision on that until we get additional information. Once we get the information, we'll put it on that, the next
Okay.
agenda.
All right, so motion to table by Commissioner Gaines,
Second.
second by Commissioner Nix. Discussion.
Have you talked to them at all since we discussed this? Have
Yes,
y'all been in touch at all?
yes, ma'am, I just haven't received their final notifications that they are on board with what I presented to them. So a couple of emails, a couple of phone calls, but they've not followed up with everything.
I guess the second question, did we ever, are they gonna share any of the, I guess we need to find out if they're gonna share any of the cost of, since they're gonna have classes in there and.
I'd like to know what
Yes.
you presented to them. I mean, if you can send us an email with that.
I sure will. We requested everything that we talked about at the last meeting. Who's gonna be, responsible for the cleaning? Are they gonna adopt our rental agreement?
Right.
All of those things was presented to them, I just haven't received that information as of
Because
yet.
right now, I think everything's coming out of,
Out of
fire
fire
service,
Yeah.
but as far as all the utilities, cleaning stuff, supplies, everything, paper products. Seems like we're gonna use it more than we are.
Might add to it, there was also some discussion about whether that money would go back to the general fund or be utilized through the library services, so that has not been yet clarified about.
That is
That's
correct.
correct. Well, I think, in discussion with that, we talked about if that money went back to the general fund, so that, it did, obviously, through the fire department's budget, because they get money from the general fund, help with all those cleaning and the different things, supplies that you would need to put in that particular room, and so the problem with trying to, and we talked about this a long time, even when I was director over fire service, the problem with trying to subdivide out who's gonna pay for what is almost an impossibility with that building the way it was built, because it's all electrical and everything's all zoomed into one thing. Water's all zoomed into one thing. So all the cost associated with it, other than maybe buying toilet paper and paper towels, would be hard at best to try to differentiate. So, even though that was something that should have been done on the front end, and was something that myself and other people involved in at that particular time tried to get done, it didn't get done. And so, I would recommend that, personally, I would say that we keep the money and let it stay in the general fund, and as the general fund is the operational budget for both of those entities anyway, the library as well as the fire department as well.
The only comment I would have is I wanna make sure that we don't restrict, I don't wanna go backwards on this, because it's a community room. We need to make sure that it's fully available to the specifications we've been using it for, and if that includes somebody having a birthday party, for a community person, then if there's costs associated with the library, we're encouraged to clean that up, and I think it falls back, but the guidelines on the person that's renting the room.
Yes, sir.
Right.
But to make sure that we don't limit that use of that in any way, for the community.
Yeah, because it's got a lot of multiple uses, obviously, the fire department trains there, sheriff's office trains there. So it's gonna take some coordination on their part that I don't know that they've thought through,
Yeah.
to have a full understanding of what that facility is used for, as well as the general public, which also is a important factor in that as well.
They might change their minds.
They might change their mind when they find out the complicity.
Well, they
of it.
must be wondering about something,
Yeah.
because they're not responding.
All right, so we do have a motion and a second to table. Any further discussion? Hearing none, please vote. And that's tabled. Next up, we have consideration of resolutions authorizing the disposition of certain county properties by sealed bid in accordance with OCGA 36-9-3A. Ms. Davis.
Yes, sir. Before you are 6 different resolutions authorizing the disposition of property by sealed bid. We have spoken about these properties multiple times, so I will not go into them in detail. We've talked about them as a matter of property acquisition in executive session, but for the edification of the public and for our record, I will just read each of the parcel numbers and indicate just a basic identification of the acreage. The first is parcel number 082006001. It's 75.82 acres. Parcel 2 is number 107-271. It consists of 1.379 acres. The remaining 4 are lots that are within the Big Canoe subdivision that the county had acquired based upon tax sales. The first of those is 023-001, which is lot 3052 in the Big Canoe development. Parcel 4 is parcel number 015068, lot 6239 in Big Canoe. Parcel 5 is number 016-098, that's lot 6319 in Big Canoe. And parcel 6 is 0168-096, and that's lot 7096 in Big Canoe subdivision. And just again, the process will be that these will be put out for bid. They will be advertised according to state law. We will accept bids during a period of time. We have the right to reject any bid if it doesn't come in at a price that we believe is appropriate. We have had appraisals done on the first 2 properties and have that to weigh any bid against. And at that time, we'll open them and determine whether we proceed with the sale. And if we do, they'll come back before the board so that you can vote on that purchase price. If these meet with your approval, I would propose that we just address them with a single motion unless there's any reason or any issue in discussing any of them separately. Otherwise, I think a single motion to approve the resolutions for each of these 6 dispositions would be appropriate.
Questions for Ms. Davis?
Is there anything that we need to note? I think on that one piece, 1.379, the proceeds are determined to go back to the fire department. I don't know if we need to notate that now or when we agree to approve it at that point.
Yes, I think at the time that we agree to enter into purchase contract, we can provide that. And frankly, we'll get the proceeds and then we can disperse them as need be.
Other questions? Motion.
Motion to approve these resolutions.
Okay, a motion from Commissioner Fawcett, seconded by Commissioner Satterfield. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that is approved 4-0. No public comment signed up for in this segment?
No, sir, but you do need to consider the right for kids.
Oh, yes, right for kids, yeah. Right for that. Number 5. Thank you for reminding me. Okay. This was the brain tumor ride for pediatric brain tumor research and stuff, and it would bring in approximately $100,000 towards studying for cures and as well as helping these children that are stricken with brain tumor. Any other information needed? Motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Nix, seconded by Commissioner Satterfield. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that is approved 4-0. Now there's no public comment at this particular time. We are adjourned. Thank you for your attendance and patience throughout.